In a world where heroes can be invincible, just how powerful do the villains need to be? Welcome back, Nerd Squad. We are flipping through the pages of Invincible once more to bring you another list, but this time one where we get to highlight the horrors and ingenuity of some of the Invincible universe's greatest foes and villains. And trust me, there is a lot of unexpected antagonists here to be afraid of. Join me as we explore some of the fantastic foes and counting down the top 10 most powerful Invincible villains. Who will be the most powerful and earn our #1 spot? Stay tuned to find out. Let's get counting. Number 10, Volcanikka. Volcanikka only appears in a few issues, but she is a pretty hot villain. Literally hot, that is. She rules the caverns of the rocky world beneath the Earth's crust. She first appears in issue 106 of Invincible, where she aims to make Seismic her consort, turning him into a lava being and titling him the King of the Underworld. She and Seismic then head out to try and conquer the surface world together. Their first battle ends with their retreat, but they at least got what they came for. Volcanikka isn't just a lava elemental, but also rules the cavernous subterranean area of Earth, and all of its creatures that live there as well. Number 9, Monax. Monax is the son of Monster Girl and Zal Zaxel of Flaxen royalty. Zal was his mother and Monster Girl his father. Monster Girl and Zal conceived the child together while Amanda was in her male monster form. In case you were wondering how that worked. Monax came to Earth with the Flaxen Empire in an attempt to conquer it years after, in his dimension, Monster Girl and Robot had left. Not knowing that Monster Girl had a child with Zal and seeking to protect the peace that they had created during their time in the Flaxen dimension, Robot, before they left, ordered all Zaxels and their relatives to be killed to prevent an uprising from ever happening. However, this obviously was not how that went down. Zal was killed, but Monax survived, returning to Earth to get his revenge on his father and on Robot for what they had done to him, the Zaxels, and the Flaxen Empire. And friends, if you are loving this list and you want more Invincible lists, more, let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8, Omnipotus. Omnipotus was a global level threat that took all of Earth's heroes teaming up to defeat. Omnipotus came from another world and dimension where he had drained his home of all of its energy. Omnipotus came to Earth to feed on more energy to give him even more power. He almost succeeded too, but in the end, Black Samson awoke, rejuvenated, and restored. With his powers returned and at a higher level than previous due to his time spent comatose, Black Samson pushed Omnipotus back through his warp gate, sending him back from whence he came, and then destroyed his warp key so that Omnipotus could never return. However, Omnipotus would later return as a villain and fight Invincible and Dinosaurus. Dinosaurus would defeat him and ultimately destroy him. Omnipotus kinda reminds me of Marvel's Galactus. Does anyone else get that vibe? Number 7, Anissa. Initially, Anissa is an ally of the Viltrumite Empire, and because of that reason is an enemy of Invincible and of Earth. She initially shows up and attempts to convince Mark to join the Empire and help them to conquer Earth. Mark, however, is not really interested in this plan and refuses to help her or the Viltrumite Empire. Later on, Anissa returns with Thragg, or Thragg, depending on how you want to say it, and attempts to live in secret on Earth to help the Viltrumites rebuild their population by mating with humans. However, Anissa cannot find a suitable mate and also shares that she never really wanted to procreate to begin with. She assists in defeating Thragg when she finds out that Omni-Man is the true heir to the Viltrumite Empire, but she also ends up seeing Mark as a potential mate, despite the fact that Mark at this point is with Eve. Anissa doesn't care, and she even forces herself on Mark, leaving him traumatized for many years, unable to even reach out and really tell anyone what happened to him for a long time. Years later, Anissa returns to Earth to help them when Thragg's children come to attack. She is changed at this point and regrets what she did to Mark. However, her assault on him also produced a son, and that part she doesn't regret as she loves her and Mark's son, Marcus. Pretty complicated character and villain. Number 6, Evil Marks. When it comes to Invincible, who would be a stronger villain than Invincible himself? Or rather, multiple Invincibles. During the event of Invincible War, multiple Marks start appearing who are all from alternate realities and who are all evil. They have come to destroy Invincible physically and mentally, also destroying his reputation as a hero. In fact, that's kind of the main point of them being there. Many of these evil alternate versions of Mark end up dead following the events of Invincible War, but also costing the lives of many of Earth's heroes in the process. The remaining 8 end up being sent to a dead Earth reality, where the Earth there is filled with nothing but dust and hot sand. Stranded here with no food, they are forced to fight and consume one another for nourishment. In the end, only 2 evil marks remain, Mohawk Mark and Yellow Cape Mark. Yellow Cape Mark could likely be considered the most powerful of all of the evil marks, as while both have survived this far, Mohawk Mark is even frightened of Yellow Cape Mark. Number 5. Angstrom Levy. Angstrom Levy is really just a man who loves science, but unfortunately he saw Invincible as his opponent and nemesis due to a misunderstanding where he thought that Mark had actually interrupted an important and lifelong experiment in the process, leaving him injured. Levy then sought to destroy Mark because of this, and using his multi-dimensional knowledge and ability to travel to alternate universes using portals, he pulled together an army of evil marks to help him. In the end, Mark would believe that he killed Levy, but would later learn that Angstrom had actually survived, being patched up by the technicians as well as given cybernetic enhancements that increased his power. Angstrom's weakness, though, would ultimately be his memory, as it wasn't actually Mark who had truly interrupted his experiment, but himself, who removed his multiversal device before his experiment had been complete, because Invincible had showed up but was actually about to die. Levy had actually removed the device not wanting Mark to be killed, that's why he took it off. This revelation would cause Angstrom to question all of his actions thus far and ultimately surrender to Invincible in the end, defeated by his own lack of memory. Number 4. Robot. While Robot might have the most heroic intentions, you cannot deny that in the end, he became a villain himself. In fact, he was only successful as a villain because his intentions were so heroic. His goal? World domination. But why would a hero strive for such an antagonistic goal? Because he knew if he were in charge and completely undisputed as the world's leader, that he could make changes that would greatly improve all lives on Earth. Robot is not actually an AI-powered android, he's a super genius who was originally malformed and unable to survive in the outside world until he created for himself a new, more stable body. He had got a taste for global leadership during his time stranded with Monster Girl in the Flaxen Dimension. Together, they conquered the Flaxen Empire and became its leaders. When they returned to Earth, Robot saw the possibility to turn Earth into a paradise in a similar fashion. But of course, there were many that he would have to get out of the way first. Number 3. Conquest. Conquest is one of the scariest villains out there. Why? Well, because his introduction shook up the narrative. For many, his arrival proved to be one of the scariest of all of the villains in the Invincible universe. This was a guy who enjoyed violence and fighting for the sake of it, and unlike Battle Beast, no fight was ever seen as below him, so he wasn't a villain who would give up. Conquest would fight to the point that his face was unrecognizable and would still come back for more. Initially, it appeared as though he'd killed Mark's partner and love, Adam Eve, which also gave us another shocking, jaw-dropping, fear-riddled moment. Not just for us as readers, but for Mark as Invincible as well. Don't worry, Eve's okay. Spoilers. Number 2. Battle Beast. Battle Beast is one of the most fierce and powerful villains around. His backstory starts off with him being a fearsome warrior and hero who himself was kind of like a guardian of his own planet. And after finding every opponent he came up against disappointing, he decided to leave and traverse the galaxy in search of someone who would be worthy enough to face him in battle and ideally best him. Every world he went, he brought destruction and death to, unable to find the perfect nemesis. No one was strong enough to beat or to defeat him, including Earth's own heroes who almost died trying. Would Battle Beast ever find someone who was worthy of battling him? Would Battle Beast ever find love? I'm just kidding. He doesn't want to love. He doesn't want to love his nemesis. Although I'm sure there's an element. I feel like there might be an element there. Number 1. Thragg. Thragg or Thragg or however we're gonna say it. We'll know when he shows up in the animated series. I like the way Thragg sounds, so I'm gonna go with that. But if you say Thragg, that is totally cool. Thragg has to be up there as one of the most all-time powerful villains, not just in Invincible, but maybe in comics in general, especially in terms of a one-on-one battle. Thragg was the villain to defeat one of the strongest villains in the world and lived to tell the tale of it. He ended up fighting Battle Beast, and after days of fighting and both of them being disemboweled, won. Now, of course, Battle Beast did choose to fight disemboweled due to Thragg becoming disemboweled during during the interim of their fight. But Thragg also had to fight like that, and even defeating a disemboweled version of Battle Beast is very impressive. Because hey, that guy is nuts! Thragg took Battle Beast's fur, or his coat, or his skin after the fight and had it turned into like a cape to remind him of his awesome victory. He wore it. Who is your favorite Invincible villain? Which do you think is the most powerful? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I am your host, Amanda McKnight, reminding you, as always, to stay nerdy, YouTube.